Thank
Thank
you
you very
very
much,
much.
Mr. President. I've distributed a written report, so I'll limit myself to make few remarks, and then if there are any questions. The lead up to this meeting, to the winter meeting, tradition is always preceded by the meeting in Davos, the meeting in Munich, and let's say the debate prior to this winter meeting, and it's been reflected also in the debate here, is whether we are heading towards a more multipolar system with the big hegemons who are in charge of their own regions, or whether the multilateral system based on rules, based on values, is still in place. And I must say that your presence here, the way you work, the way I see that this parliamentary assembly operates also throughout these last months makes me believe that you are stark believers of the multilateral systems. So I really would like to come out of this meeting with a more optimistic, let's say, spirit. Um, Another part of the debate leading to this meeting was what's the new posture of the United States? You know, are they not interested in multilateral affairs, or are they still engaged in the common security that goes from Vancouver to Vladivostok? Also, on this one, I have good news. I think we've seen the posture of the U.S. delegation on this meeting. You've hosted a dinner with all the delegations to exactly show that you still have an interest in this organization. This organization back in December received a message that the organization, I mean the OSCE governmental side, received a message that it needs to cut the budget by 10%, 15 million, and reprioritize. Well, here the message that we get is that the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, of course, can continue with what it is doing, and that let's say, the comprehensive dimension of security that we have in the OSCE is still something that is for the appetite of the U.S. delegation. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the presence of our members here. Um, I would like to congratulate our members. You will see in the news from Copenhagen regularly what we broadcast as your activities throughout the week, and it's always we have always a problem of space because this assembly is extremely active, you know, and it's you, the members, in your different roles in the different articulation of this assembly that keep us busy, but keep the Parliamentary Assembly right on target on different dossiers. President Pons, I'd like to really thank you for your leadership and for approaching your presidency with the spirit of more inclusivity. Since you became president, you gave clear guidelines that we have to be gender balanced, and you've been in, of course, in all the appointments you've made, both as special representatives and in the leadership of election observation missions that you've appointed, but also more inclusive with those countries who have been less represented, let's say, in positions of responsibility. You've appointed members of countries who never had a role, an executive role in this assembly. And for this, I thank you. And this really embodies the spirit of Helsinki because it, let's say, gives responsibilities to all the 57 countries of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. We've discussed the budget. Thank you very much for your leadership, Johan Buser. You have given a fair picture of the challenges we have with the budget. I wouldn't consider it too dramatic. Of course, we have a deficit of 6% because the Russian Federation has not paid their dues, and because there is a minus 6%, but there is also increasing costs in all the line of business. We are, you know, travel fare, conference rooms, all the things that we normally spend our money on are increasing. So, of course, we are challenged. We still have some buffer zones in the reserves, but we have to address this. I think today the Rules Committee came up with some creative ideas, and I think that the countries who are interested by the possibility of increasing their dues at least on 10% will consider this seriously. One of the challenges is that this is the last time we will have this meeting in this room and in this format. We've had it for 25 years, but from next year, as a consequence of the cut in the governmental side, we will not have this room. So we will have to also rethink of how we have this meeting, maybe on the fifth floor, but not the entire assembly, maybe just the committees, maybe the standing committee. So we will have still to do some reflections with the Bureau in April, but this is a consequence of this. To rent this room, it's around 30,000 euro. Of course, if any participating state is willing to sponsor the next winter meeting in this room, come forth and we will welcome that. And this is brings me to the next point. I mean, one of my responsibility, together with Gustavo as Secretary General, let's say, is to find venues for our events. And I was about to give you a very dark picture here, as into saying that we don't have any venues for next year. But we've received a letter today from the chair of the Helsinki Commission and the chair of the U.S. delegation, Joe Wilson, who indicates the intention of hosting the next annual session in 2027 in Charleston. So this is great news, and we hope that this offer will materialize. So thank you very much to the USA for that. Um, um, we have also heard that there is a possibility of another country from Southeast Europe that has intention of hosting us in 2028. We still have some discussions, and we will see if that materializes. So overnight, there was bad news this morning. This afternoon, I have good news for you. Last point on the staff of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. When we have to discuss the prioritize our budget, because it's been said we need to come up with a contingency plan on how to deal with less money. Uh, I have distributed to you, I think, a list that you have on your desk of 27 points. These are all the things we are busy with, all the activities, the statutory activities, election observation, and a set of other activities we're normally engaged with. These activities derive from either a decision of the rules of procedure, the statutory meeting, or a decision of the plenary who has passed a resolution and has decided that we should be engaged on one issue rather than another, or a decision of the standing committee who establishes ad hoc committees, or a decision of the president who appoints a special representative and says we have to engage in this specific dossier. So it is not up to me to say which of these activities we should cut because it's very difficult. These are all political activities triggered by the assembly as such. So we will have to have a discussion with the treasurer in March before we get to the bureau meeting in April in Copenhagen on how to deal with the challenges we have. Of course, if we can compensate the lack of the U.S. Contribution, I make amendment here, the lack of the Russian Federation contribution with increasing a little bit the budget, that will be the best solution in my opinion, and we keep the budget at a minimum growth. But this is the only way to get out of it. I want to thank the Secretariat staff who is here. I have the privilege of meeting you in the corridors, and many of you always praise my colleagues who say, this person is doing great on this dossier, on this committee, and for me it's a great sign of appreciation from the members that with a small staff we managed to deliver on all these dossiers. So I would like to thank my colleagues. As you have seen in the past, this is a team effort, and so a big kudos to all my colleagues. And last but not least, because we normally work very close with the secretaries of delegations and with those who assist you in the parliament. There is one who just stood up, Everett, who is attending his last meeting in the Parliamentary Assembly. He will leave this delegation after this meeting. So we would like to thank Everett very much for the collaboration we've had with you. I think you also strike as an example of how nice it is to interact with the delegations and how you work well with your members. So thank you very much for your service here. And with this, I conclude.